Hola and aloha, everybody. Welcome to this channel. I got the Magical Dimensions Oracle cards and activators today. I know I've been feeling them Energy Oracle cards in the Temple Path. I really have been. But I want to switch it up today a little bit. Is that Exiled? Oh no, it's the Promise. Okay, cute. So we're just gonna open this up with this real quick. We'll take this one. Oh, King of Swords and Justice. Okay, cool, cute. Bottom of the deck is the Three of Cups. So I shuffled and cut this, and I shuffled this before I came on. Um, but yeah, the Three of Cups. So I'm doing it this way so I don't get confused. And if it look upside down on y'all side, that's fine. So the promise is number 30 something maybe. Number 38. The promise is soulmates, attraction, and partnership. And then we get the King of Swords and Justice. So the King of Swords and Justice, I feel like this is someone. All the blue in this, all of the deep blue, this is definitely given. It's more third eye than throat, honestly, because it's a deeper blue for me, to me. Um, but with the third eye, there involves a certain amount of perception, right? And a clarity of vision. Now, the King of Swords is usually the energy of. Well, the King of Swords has a lot of energy. People say he's a little cold. He can be calculated. Someone who typically puts logic and thoughts over emotions and feelings. And with the King of Swords, it isn't necessarily a matter of practicality. It's more like feasibility. And it may be playing semantics, but if something is practical, then it's like it makes sense. If something is feasible, that's just more so the energy of like, is it possible, right? Because I'd say the King of Pentacles is a little more practical when it comes to the difference between air energy and earth energy. They can both be very sort of heady, but with air, it's more so like the idea. And with this Aquarian energy backing this, I feel like there was an idea of the future that maybe this person had a vision that they had in mind for their future, but they found out that something in that wasn't as balanced as they thought it would have been. And so now it's time to pick up the sword and actually use it. With that sword being pointed downward, it also feels like someone may have been coasting. And then there's the Queen of Swords at the cut. Now Justice is at the bottom of the deck, and that is Libran energy. So, that was interesting. Do these have reversals? I don't think so. Oh, not the Magician and the World are at the cut. The Magician and the World. We'll put this back. And that was just a little something, because I didn't even fully finish this. But yeah, so it's like with the perception being clouded, someone didn't know. It's like you don't know what you don't know until you reach a certain point in the journey, right? You don't know if something is rotten to the core until you get to the core of it, or until you spend enough time with it that those impurities start to come to the surface, and that could be within us. There could be some internal justice, some internal balancing that needs to go on before any of that soulmate partnership and attraction can come in. Because if it is based on attraction, we can only attract from a frequency that we embody, right? And so with that King of Swords, I feel like maybe more so mentally than anything else, it's about getting ourselves right and also about speaking, but also at the same time still being flexible in that justice, because justice is a balance between two people. And I don't know if the King of Swords can be kind of railroady, right? It's like he talks so much that you kind of get lost in it. But then in his own mind, that may be reflective of something in there. I don't know. But let's see. Give this 3 a cut. And then we'll get into it. Actually, we'll do the cards first. And then we'll pull that card at the top of the deck afterward. I'm hoping to keep this fairly short. It took me a little longer than I would have liked. to get this set up today. And I ended up, it's like I moved everything to this side, and then I didn't really have any room on this side, so then I moved everything back. And that could be part of that energy at the same time. It's like what we thought was feasible. And that's the thing with swords, though. It's always dependent upon the information that we have at the time. And it's dependent upon the truths that we know at the time. So whenever we get an Ace of Swords, or when in that Ace of Swords being a new perspective, Death and the Knight of Cups, whenever we get Ace of Swords new perspective, then it shifts things. And as it shifts, then the King shifts. Now with Aquarian energy, and with that King of Swords in particular, it's fixed air. So in some ways, the energy of Aquarius is fixed on the future. And it may not necessarily have the present limitations in mind, or it may not be looking at the material of the present. But anyway, Aquarian energy is still fixed, even when it comes to a sign as fluid as air, right? Let's get a few cards to see what's just going on. What's going on? No time limits. There's one, or like two. Three. Perfect. We'll stop there. Bottom of the deck is the Two of Wands. The Two of Wands is a card of beginnings. And also crossroads. It's like, which road do we take? Do we take the road on this side or the road on this side? Or do we take this path in the middle that goes all the way somewhere? Lots of wands today. All wands today. The Five of Wands, the Seven of Wands, and the Ten of Wands. With the Two of Wands at the bottom of the deck. This is really, really fiery over here. I actually like this progression because we have blues in the bottom, blues in the background over here, blue on the earth, red in the sky, and then more reds over here. Then we have blue and red here. So blue being the perception, the deeper red being our foundation and stability, and then the yellows and the oranges being, and some of the pinks, the yellows, the oranges, and the pinks being our creations in the space that we create from. And so here again, we have the Five of Wands, which is a card of conflict. The Five of Wands, if we look at the number and the elements, 5 is a number of change. It's also very busy in a lot of cards because it is that middle point. Wands is the suit of fire, and it's about passions. So it could have been the case that we had a lot of interests, or there's lots of things that we want to do, and we haven't necessarily settled on one. And so since we haven't settled on one, and with the quantum nature of reality, it's like it's bringing, and it's trying to weave multiple paths together. It's like all of these wands are different paths linked to different places that we want to go. And since there's no cohesion, it leads to confusion, and it leads to the slowing down of manifestation. Because it's like we get part way through this one, and then we jump over here, and we go part way, and then we go down here, and we go part way, and then we go here, and we go part way, and it's like, wait, weren't we just coming from that way? And then we come up here, and we go part way, and it's like, wait, we started going this way. And then like this path down here has kind of sort of been mentioned, and you see how it's like there's no solid. Now it would be different if we had, and it's not about being fixed, even though 5 is fixed. 2, 3, and 4 are cardinal. 5, 6, and 7 are fixed. 8, 9, and 10 are mutable. But it's about holding a vision. And it would be different if we find out that it goes this, and then we come up here, and then we go that way, and then we come over here, right? Like, because this could all be one path. And if you stick to the path, you'll hit all of the areas that you want. But again, this is about our perception, and I think it's more so about vision. It's like there's been no, it's not clarity of vision, but there's been no consistency in the vision to keep us moving forward. And then here we have the Seven of Wands, where we see the vision on the back, or she's standing on the vision, but with the root and a little bit of the crown up here in the sky with that purple. And so this is about picking one and handling the others as they come. It's about picking one and then integrating the rest as we need, instead of trying to like carry them all at once. Now she's also wearing blue. Her boots are green, so what's connected to her vision is her heart. Now, since this was so confusing over here, it could be the case that, and we see some greens in here as well. It could be the case that her heart was also clouded and muddied. And then we have the Ten of Wands down here, which is like carrying the burdens and expectations of other people. Now, with all of these colors over here, this is kind of sort of telling me that we didn't have a clarity of vision because we were so worried and concerned about what other people wanted us to do and what other people just wanted for us in general. And so, with this energy being in the middle, it's like this is having the strength to, in some ways, take into consideration. It's taking into consideration other people, but more so, it's like knowing what other people expect for you, knowing what other people want your path to be. And then with this hint of purple up here, it's about allowing your soul's path to come forth. Now, again, it isn't necessarily that you won't get to all these things, but this disjointed approach is not going to get you there. And with the Two of Wands, we see that these wands are kind of striped, but there's something actually wrapping around them, if you can tell. There's something wrapping around these. I'm trying not to. Yeah, you can kind of tell. And it's not just like candy cane printed that way. And so it's like if you choose either one of these paths, it almost feels like you're integrating what you want, and then the King of Cups is under that. So yeah, it may be the case that you have people to support. Lots of deep blues today, which again, those indigos speak to the third eye. Let me try to slow down a little bit and not rush through this. Okay, so with these wands being, it's like they're fixed to whatever this red thing is. I feel like when it comes to what other people want and expect of you, those paths, that path would be ever flowing and ever changing. Because some people are never satisfied with what we do, honestly. And then even if they are, if we're not doing what we want to do, then we're not. And so it's like these two red paths are actually ribbons. And if these wands weren't holding these ribbons down, then they would just flow and blow in the wind, and you would be in this Five of Wands sort of wandering state forever. And so just like these two wands holding down the ribbons, you need to stand your ground in what vision you want to hold for yourself, right? Because then once you do that, it puts everything else in order for you to accurately see if it's what you want or not. You can begin to walk this middle path based solely on your vision that is a lot less, crowded and congested than all of this. And it doesn't have you feeling like you're at odds at everyone else either. And then you're not necessarily carrying burdens that you don't need to carry anymore. And it could be people that you love. Now, the card that came out is Awakening. Awakening is number 3. It's ancient knowledge, memories, and connection. So yeah, I feel like as you start to disconnect from what everyone else wants, like I talked about, if you can see it in this card, there's a hint of purple coming in at the top, right? And purple is the crown. We have all of this like reddy orange color, and then we have the blue down here. It's like you're so focused on the vision that everyone else has been throwing. Well, you're coming at the point now where you're trying to come out of this Five of Wands, where you're trying to decide what you actually want for yourself, right? And what isn't yours with this Ten of Wands. But it's like you're at this moment where instead of you truly, here we go, instead of you truly tapping into what it is that is called for you, it's more so like you're sort of standing in opposition to everything else. It's like your focus is still on the outside, but if you put your focus and shift your focus on the inside, that's the energy of this awakening, and that's the energy of you getting on the path that is actually yours with this awakening, right? And then if you get on the path that is yours, that will then lead to the promise, or maybe with the promise and the King of Swords and justice, it could be the case that someone else that you're connected to is also going through this process of finding out what it is that they truly want for themselves that also aligns with their soul purpose. So, My advice here would be to drop the BS. Is that? Well, it's not like BS necessarily. Um, but it's like realize that, sometimes people put things on us because they actually do care about us with this King of Cups. But at the end of the day, ultimately, we need to care about ourselves enough to do the things that make us happy, that align with who we are and why we've come here. This Seven of Wands is kind of defensive, but I feel like it doesn't necessarily have to be. And with these two, it's almost at the same time giving me the energy of like, once you refuse or once you stop playing the game, then all the other pieces turn against you. And then, like, we go from the 5 to the 7, right? And then we got the 2 of Wands down here somewhere, right here. We go from the 5 to the 7. 5 to the 7 is backwards, y'all. That's why I'm getting confused. We go from the 5 to the 7, and then you see this extra one come up, and you're like, wait, where did that come from? So you could be getting some backlash from somebody that you didn't necessarily expect, but stand your ground regardless. And I feel like a lot of this is just part of that testy trial period. And once you actually kind of sort of get through it, then it's like people will be able to see, it'll be like the results speak for themselves. So in the beginning, you may have to convince people. In the beginning, it may seem like you're walking the single solitary path amidst this contrast. And the contrast is red, so it could be connected to people and things that are a part of your core root foundation. But it's like as you go higher, then they come closer and closer and closer to seeing it from your perspective. And once they see you happy, ultimately at the end of the day, if they love you, that should make them happy, right? So that's what I got for y'all today. All the best. I hope that made sense. It felt kind of all over the place, but also it felt coherent. Have a good one.